You're listening to Seek Travel Ride, a podcast sharing bike adventures from people from all over the world. And this episode is sponsored by Old Man Mountain, makers of the most durable bike racks out there. If you want to head out on an adventure, you need to strap gear onto your bike, and Old Man Mountain have you covered in a myriad of ways. Head to oldmanmountain.com to find out more. Now, on to today's episode.
When I left that particular village, I had started climbing up another hill and again just got defeated, turned the corner. It was like a wall in front of me, and just mentally I was so defeated. I hopped off the bike, had to start pushing again. I was like, I'm never going to make it up here, like, and I'm just going to be so drained by the sun and the heat and stuff. But then these kids started pushing. The kids from the village had followed me, and it was only like a couple of 100 meters back to the village, but they had followed me out. And they started pushing, and like the next couple of kilometers, they were just like helping me walk and push the bike up. But then that night, I stopped in I was like a beach, but it was like a small little, like, not a village, but it was like a couple of like roadside restaurants or whatever. So I asked where could I camp. They told me where to camp outside this like abandoned building. So I pitched up the tent there. Eventually drifted off to sleep. There was people fishing down the pier beside me, and then during the night, just everything started violently shaking.
Welcome to Seek Travel Ride, where we share the stories and experiences of people taking amazing adventures by bike. Whether it's crossing state borders, mountain ranges, countries or continents, we want to share that spirit of adventuring on two wheels with our listeners. Hello everyone, just letting you know this is part 2 of my conversation with guest Tomas Mac An T-Saoir. If you haven't yet listened to part 1, you definitely want to do that before listening to this episode. I've got a link to part 1 in the podcast show notes, or simply check it out in your podcast player app. For those of you who have listened to part 1, you will definitely be enjoying part 2. We start off with stories of Tomas talking more about his experiences in Syria, Afghanistan, and also Lebanon, before we wind him back to New Zealand and how he made his way back across to Ireland. Here's part 2. Did you get, I don't want to use the word comfortable because I don't think that's the right word to use, but as the days wore on where you were in Syria, were you less on edge?
Yeah, in a way, you you just get used to seeing that destruction. As bad as that sounds,
It's not normal, but
no.
yeah, that's what you're expecting to
Like,
see.
obviously it still stands out, like it's not as if you're totally oblivious to it, like trying to ignore it or look away or whatever, like, but it was just everywhere.
Yeah, because I've seen images and, I mean, I've watched it on the news and I know some amazing places have been destroyed now, but, you know, there's an amazing history in Syria as well.
Oh, incredible.
Like Roman history, there's amphitheatres, there's huge,
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Like pre-Civil War, like tourism was huge there. You know, a lot of people visited. And even when I was like posting a couple of pictures online or whatever, people would have reached out being like, I was there pre-Civil War, and then they send me photographs of what it looked like back then. And even they'd get like upset messaging because they're just like, oh my God, like we all knew there was a civil war there and stuff, but I guess, and look, you can see videos and pictures online and stuff, but it's so different when you're there staring at it. So that was that difference. And then, you start talking to people. Like my first evening there, I got taken in by a local family. And I got taken in a lot in Afghanistan as well. Any war anywhere in the world, there's horrific stories, but just Syria just seemed to take it to another level. Just the sheer amount of like death and destruction. Like the first evening I was at someone's house, and he showed me where his old house actually was, and it had been bombed by the Syrian Air Force. Like his own government bombed his house trying to kill him because it was in a rebel area that was down in the south. So he was in his newer house or whatever, and he had been a rebel soldier. Like this guy I was staying with had fought for the rebels against the government. The room I was sleeping in, his AK-47, his body armor, his uniform was in the corner. Now he's not obviously fighting anymore, but they were just like going back to like people being so brutally honest. He just told me all about it. He told me how he got involved, where he was fighting, how long he was fighting for, family members that were killed. Took me for a drive, took me to like the local gravesite. This place was just huge. And he was just like, this is just this one small village. And these were the bodies that we could find, we could retrieve. And then it's like the huge underground prison network that they had in Syria where people just disappeared, never to be seen again. And they're still looking for loved ones today.
Gosh.
Walking through Damascus, you'd see these like posters of somebody, and it was just like, obviously it's all in Arabic or whatever, but it's just like, like, have you seen or whatever. And it was just, the stories were just, and you're kind of sitting there just drinking tea as if you're having a normal conversation, yet that normal conversation is all about the horrors of what they went through. So again, that same old question of like, should I be here? But then also, and having spoken to a few other people about it since, on the other side of the thing, then, or on the other side of the coin, maybe for them it's good as well that, in a way, life is like kind of going back to normal. That tourists are returning back. Somebody would come on a bicycle, feeling not safe, but that like at least if he's coming on a bicycle, he thinks he might be okay. That like life's going back to normal, and then they're just talking to a stranger about it, telling a story from scratch where, maybe within themselves or amongst themselves, there might be too much trauma to talk about it, that they don't want to bring it up with family members or friends.
Yeah, you almost become someone that they can speak openly with.
Yeah, yeah.
Gosh, that comes with another burden. Like, how did you feel when you left Syria? And even with Afghanistan, I know they were different trips, but you're experiencing stuff that's not normal. You're hearing stuff that's not normal. You're seeing it, and it's not normal. There's an edge to it. Like, how does it feel when you then go somewhere that's a bit, inverted brackets, more normal? Does it still weigh heavily on you? You talk about, you're seeing images that you've experienced and going, you think about it now, but what was it like to leave that behind? And then, because I feel there's so many different aspects of your travel. And I remember, Tomas, before I sat down here, I was thinking, I don't want to just go straight to these zones, and it's just naturally come up. I'd like to go to some beautiful landscapes and amazing sunsets and beautiful mountains and ha-ha moments as well. But there is an element where your travels, like your emotions, which have gone from being really fearful and panicky in Sudan to just being so happy surrounded by strangers and hospitality, to experiencing a war-torn country really when stuff's still going down, to then leaving it behind. Like, what's that side of it like? It's like a cycle tour of extremes in times, isn't it?
Yeah. I definitely struggled because you kind of feel like this completely broken, helpless, that you're just like, kind of like, how the hell can humanity ever become like this?
Mm.
So after leaving Syria, I got into Lebanon. But even though I felt like that, I still felt as if like I had to just embrace the journey I was on and try to make the most out of Lebanon. So I did a bit more biking there, took a few days off at Beirut, stayed with my friend Rob, who I'd met in Syria previously. And then I decided to go down to like South Lebanon. Because again, like, and I know like, South Lebanon, it's in the news every day now. When I was there, it was still like, I guess, being bombed by Israel and stuff. But I still wanted to go down and see it and experience it. But just part of me inside, I kind of just had enough. I was just like, this, in a bad way, I was just like, this isn't fun anymore. Like, this is just something I had, again, like, had I bitten off more than I can chew kind of way of thinking. And when I went down to South Lebanon, I had been stopped by local people. Hezbollah had been called. I'd had to deal with, like, engage with Hezbollah, get quizzed by them, have my phone and stuff checked. A lot of questions being asked. And I was just like, something just snapped inside me. I was just like, I just want to get out of here. Like, this is just, it's becoming too much now. Like, I went traveling, like I said, to see the world for the good, the bad, the ugly. And, obviously you want to have good moments all the time.
Yeah.
And now that I saw the other side of it, the real, real, real ugly part of it, when I was down in South Lebanon, I was just like, I got stopped by Hezbollah for like the bloody 10th time that day. And it was like 11 o'clock at night. I was walking back to where I was staying. And I just, yeah, I just got stopped by them and just quizzed and stuff. And I had to sit and wait like as if it was like a bold schoolboy. And a woman was on my right side. And then obviously like Hezbollah members around, and they're not in uniform. Like they're not going around with guns. They're just, because they're not meant to be down there. Like they're meant to be. They're not. They're meant to stay north of the Litani River. So they were further south than what they're meant to be, and so like they're just dressed in normal casual clothes. Like there's, you wouldn't know one from the next guy down there, if you know. So, but at that stage when I was sat down, waiting for another fella to turn up, to wait for another fella to turn up, the woman in my right ear was just, people have died, like it's not good to be here, and you're kind of just sitting there staring at the floor. And I was trying to like engage with them, you know. Usually when you get into situations like that, like when I had to deal with the Taliban in Afghanistan, or when I came across like HTS or other whatever armed groups in Syria, you know, you try to engage, you try to ask them for something like water or food, just so that, you know, you kind of give them the feeling that they have to look after you, that you're not a threat or whatever to them. But that night, I was just like, I was so fed up of it. I was just like, nah, this is just getting too much now. Like, this woman's in my ear telling me like, oh, so many people have died, family members and stuff. Then I had another guy who kind of like freaked me out a bit because he came over like just really, he was really worked up, and he ended up like ripping his shirt open, and he had a tattoo of Nasrallah, the Hezbollah leader who got killed in a bombing attack, and he just started like beating his chest and stuff, and I was like, oh
Whoa.
shit, like yeah. And I was just like, no, like I'm tapping out. Like if I get out of this in one piece,
I reject this. Tomas
yeah,
out. Mic drop. Go away.
yeah, I just like, if I get
Whoa.
out of this in one piece, like I'm just hopping on my bike tomorrow morning and I'm just riding the hell out of here. I'm going to Beirut and I'm booking a flight to Turkey because this is just like, again, but at the same time, looking back on it now, it was an experience. But when I was there, again, just like something snapped inside me, and I was just like, having seen what I saw in Syria, experienced what I experienced, heard what I heard. You're in these towns and stuff. I was up in Malula, which is like one of two or three places in Syria that, or even in the whole world, that speak a language that's very similar to what Jesus Christ spoke. And while I was there, I met these local guys, and they had been like, "Oh, like there's another town up the road that spoke it, but it's pretty much destroyed. But you should go and check it out because it's only like 4 or 5 k's away." So I rode up there, and I got into this like what was a town once upon a time, and I just rode up through it, and obviously like people were coming out, and I was just like, where are they coming out? Like everything's destroyed here. But they'd started moving back into what their old houses were. And anyways, I parked up the bike at the top of the town because we're kind of going up this little hill and there's like a square at the top. So I parked up the bike there, got off, and I just kind of like started walking around just looking. And I don't even know what I was looking at because everything was destroyed. And I was kind of like, my head was just like in a different universe. And then this guy came on a motorbike and he kind of beckoned me to follow him. So I followed him and went down a couple of alleyways. And then he kind of took me by the hand and started walking me through all these rubbles, like houses, all everything had been like blown up or destroyed. But he was talking and he was talking. So I got out Google Translate and it wasn't really like working too well. But I got like screenshot. He'd say whatever he was saying. I'd screenshot it, then start it again. And and again going back to like how brutally honest they are. But one sentence just really hit me when I was looking back in those pictures after that night. And it was just like, they can come for us again. We don't care. We're going to die here. We're going to stay here, even if it means we have to eat the ground, like eat the dust or the whatever's on the ground. Even like meaning like if there was no food for them, like whatever they did, they weren't going to leave again. They were just basically just, if whatever came back to kill them, that they were going to stay there.
Yeah, wow.
And you're kind of just like, Jesus. And then
I've got goosebumps again.
yeah, like other towns that I was in, and you're seeing people like going back to just rubble and stuff, and they're trying to rebuild their lives again, and you're kind of like thinking, what the hell have they been through? But also, you know, you're kind of thinking like just the bravery of them, how courageous they are, how just kind of noble they are, that there's like, this happened, now it's time to move on. And like going on about like things you don't want to see anywhere in the world, but like being in Iran and again, like women rights issues in Iran. And you're seeing, and this is something that doesn't seem to be addressed in Western media, but like just the bravery, and same in Afghanistan as well, with like underground schools where girls at their own danger are
Going and
trying to learn. Yeah, 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 at like huge risk.
wow. They're the brave people in this world.
Yeah,
Something that I really hate is when I see someone who's doing something that's really physically hard and they're saying how much they're suffering and it's like going to war or something like that. I'm like, no, it's not. And then someone doing something and someone, gosh, you're so brave to do that. No, the people that are brave are those girls going to an underground school. Like, holy, and standing up for their rights. Like, that is more bravery
yeah.
than I could ever have.
And like the subtle protests going on in Iran
Yeah.
where, you know, women are going around and
Mm-hmm.
they've got like a headscarf or like even a baseball cap now. They don't want to wear the
Yeah.
full covering.
Yeah.
But again, like it's just stuff like I noticed it while I was there and I'd spoken. And in Iran, it's definitely much easier to speak to women than Afghanistan or probably most countries in the Middle East. Like Iran was like again, they were really open, but like you could engage with them on the street, coffee shops. Like there was no whereas like in Afghanistan, I think I'd one proper conversation with a girl across like I spent 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks cycling across the country, and I'd one proper conversation, and that left me thinking, being like, because it happened in Herat, so I was just walking along the street in the city, and Herat's in the west of Afghanistan, like maybe I don't know, less than 100 miles from Iran. So, anyways, I was just walking along the street, and this girl came up to me and like really good English, like, "Hi, how are you? Where are you going?" And I was on my way to Alexander the Great City Drill. Like the history out there as well is insane. But I was walking there, and I told her, and we were kind of walking, talking for like 5 odd minutes. And I just turned to her, I was just like, I don't want to get you into trouble.
Mm.
You could see people looking, but like no one was like, it wasn't like bad looks. Again, like just being a foreigner there, but then obviously a foreigner talking to a local
Yeah.
woman there as well. But nothing happened. So she was like, no, like it's okay, we can walk and talk. There's no problem with this. So we spent like literally the rest of the day together.
Wow.
So she took me to the city drill, and when we got there, she was like, "Oh, just wait here a second." And like Taliban are back in charge. They're the police, security, army, government, whatever. So they were the ones that were like security for the city drill. So she walked up to a couple of them and spoke to them and came back. And she was like, "Okay, we can go. It's okay." And I was just like, "Sorry, what the hell just happened there? Like you just went up to them and spoke to them." And she was like, "Yeah, I just told them that like you're a guest in our country, that you don't speak the local language, and that you want to learn more about the city drill, and I speak fluent English, so I'm going to show you around." And I was like, they're okay with that. They were like, "Yeah, you're a guest in our country, and we want to make sure that you have a good time here, whatever, that you learn as much as you can, etc." So we were inside there walking around, taking photographs, and but then like after that experience, I was kind of just left thinking like, how often more could that have happened if I had like not pushed it or whatever, but just like even tried? Because in my thinking, I was like, talking to women here is just like a big no-no. It'll get them into trouble,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's the last thing you want to do, is get someone into trouble just because you want to
Because you're there.
talk to
Yeah,
someone. Or
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Oh no, I would feel that burden deeply. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that would be a major concern. I totally get you there. Wow. Holy, whoa, Tomas. I knew before we'd interview or get down that there would be some amazing stories. The amount of times I've had goosebumps with what you're
We've missed
saying.
all the good fun stories as well, though. We've got down the other side of it.
Let's get into some fun stories. I realise we've been chatting for ages, and I hope that's okay with you. Like I have got so many. Are you okay? Are you time wise okay?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
no, all
very
good,
very good.
all good.
Where do I take you? I actually want to take you to New Zealand. I'm going to totally. Whoa. Is that like the most polar opposite place I could possibly take you? I think so. I
Yeah,
often say with New Zealand, and I think Tasmania is similar, and I'm sure there are other places in the world, but I feel like you breathe the most purest air in places in that country.
New Zealand's fabulous.
It is beautiful, it is scenic, the landscapes are incredible, and Kiwis are generally pretty good people too, I find. They're just in Aussie saying there's no big upness there. I don't think they're trying to one up you there. I don't think they're just genuine. That's how I find them anyway. I know, look, I'm sure that there's Kiwis that maybe aren't, but the ones that I've met have been awesome.
Very few.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, you took yourself to New Zealand. I think it was January 2020. Great timing. With the view that you were going to ride back to Ireland, and then you got stuck there, didn't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Probably like voluntarily stuck, I suppose. That was after I finished Africa. I tried to go back to university, had kind of like a relationship breakup, and then just, yeah, I was just like, okay, well, let's go and do another trip. And I was like, where can I go? So I'd originally planned to do like Bali back to Ireland, but I was just like, oh, geez, if I'm going all the way to Bali, I might as well keep going to New Zealand.
That could potentially be the longest flight you could take from Ireland actually to New Zealand.
Oh, it was, yeah, New Zealand's like the farthest country. It was a horrible flight.
I think of Kiwis every time I fly back to Australia, thinking, well, I get off here and there's some poor Kiwis on this flight that have still got another 3 or 4 hours to go.
Yeah.
Another flight, yeah.
And yeah, and going on about like just yeah, I don't know. Like funny stories. Like when I was flying, I had typical Irish send off. Like it was a few days on the beer before going, and then got on my flight. Didn't sleep from the flight from Dublin to Turkey, and then when eventually slept from Turkey to, I was flying to Malaysia, I think. I just got like just a fear, like a few days of drinking, and then all of a
Mm.
sudden you're sleeping. You get all these weird nightmares and stuff. And the poor woman sitting beside me, because when we were flying away, I fell asleep and just had this really like bad nightmare or whatever that the plane was crashing. So like the plane's going down, 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 and all of a sudden I just wake up and I grab the woman's hand beside me, and I'm just like, oh my, like why is everyone saying so calm? And then she's like, what's wrong with you? I was just like, we're crashing. She's like, no, we're not. She's like, she's like, I was wondering what was going on with you. So I was just like, right, I'm not falling back to sleep
This is
again
like a
for the rest of
complete
this flight.
stranger next to you on the flight.
Yeah. Oh God, it
There's
was.
always
Yeah, I was just like,
those other experiences too, right? Nightmares aside,
yeah,
where you're on a long haul, and when I say long haul, I mean that you are going on a flight that or there's two flights that are going to take a whole day, like a real long
yeah. I
flight.
was.
You strap in for like 14 hours, and you get on, you take off. An hour after you take off, they generally serve a meal. Then the lights might go down if it's nighttime, and then you might be sleepy, and you go, right, that's great. I'm going to try and get as much sleep as possible. And you wake up feeling so refreshed, thinking, oh, super, we must be landing soon. And then you look up and it's like 12 and a half hours to go. That's
Yeah.
awful. Have you had that as well?
I never had like a long flight like that. I think the longest before that was maybe like 8 hours or something. But yeah, those. And then the jet lag afterwards, landing in New Zealand. I was just like, fuck. I was like, I hope I don't have to do this flight. Yeah,
Traveling east, your jet lag is a lot worse as well, yeah.
yeah,
But let's get you, so you get to New Zealand and the idea, where do you land in New Zealand? Are you landing in Auckland?
yeah. Auckland, and then staying with my friend. Spent about a week there, just like getting ready, being because I had the jet lag for a few days, so like I wasn't really doing much, just really weird sleeping hours and stuff. And then yeah, eventually got going. And like you said, like whatever, 2 months later, I was meant to fly to I had booked a flight to Australia on the 12th of March, I'm thinking, because I wanted to be in Australia for St. Patrick's Day, the 17th, because I had people to meet in Sydney, and like the consulate there had been in touch with me and stuff to be there for St. Patrick's Day. And then I was having such a good time in New Zealand. Like you said about the Kiwis, like just such lovely, friendly people, great crack, so many like delays, and then I ended up getting added to this just so typically Irish. Like there's a group, like a Facebook group called Irish Mammies in New Zealand, because like for Irish mammies, and it's very strict. You're only allowed in if you're a mammy.
Which you clearly aren't. Hello.
Yeah, I was an exception. So
Okay.
basically,
You are exceptional.
Irish women would find it hard to like break into Kiwi friend groups. And that's not saying that like they're not friendly people or whatever. It's just like, you've moved over whatever
Yeah,
age and you're
and at a
trying to like
stage
get
in
to know
life as
everyone.
well. There is a stage in life where it's almost
Yeah,
like friendship groups are cut off.
yeah.
Living in another country in France, I can understand that. Yeah, go ahead.
So then basically like so they set up this Facebook group so they could like support each other. So anyways, unknown to me at the stage, one of the Irish mammies had mentioned me in this Facebook group. So and while I was in New Zealand at the start, I didn't get a SIM card because I just wanted to travel like, I could get onto Wi-Fi, whatever when I needed it, but I didn't want that distraction of data or whatever. So anyways, at this one particular day I was at a gas station having a coffee, and I turned on, I got Wi-Fi, and my phone just went crazy. I was getting all these messages from Irish mammies all over New Zealand and being like, "Oh, hey, we're based here. Family, husband, kids, like, please come and stay. You're more than welcome." So I was looking through all the messages, looking at the towns, and then I was trying to piece together like how I could like get to as many houses as I could to meet all these people, because that's the other side of traveling as well. You want to meet as many people as you can. So I had to redesign my whole route, and that led into the delay of not going to Australia.
Wow.
So again, just like a decision like
A
that.
sliding doors decision too, right?
Yeah. And I ended up staying in New Zealand for just shy of like 2.5 years and stuff. And whereas it could have been the other way, I could have ended up being in Australia for all the COVID rather than being in New Zealand. And
Yeah.
all thanks to some Irish woman who put me into an Irish Mammy's Facebook group in New Zealand.
Yeah. So while you were in New Zealand 2.5 years, I'm pretty sure you were working there, obviously. Did you do some trips while in New Zealand? Like, did you get and even then they're very different journeys, aren't they? New Zealand's not a huge country; it's a beautiful
Yeah.
country. Were you able to do short trips? Like, you were there in lockdown, like the country was locked down, but were you free to move through it and stuff like that?
Yeah, pretty much. So I had ended up in the South Island.
Beautiful.
Like, yeah, great decision. And when COVID was kicking off elsewhere in the world, like I think Italy, Lombardy had gone into lockdown. It was just then Italy went into lockdown. And anyways, you just kind of realize like it's going to come this way as well. So I applied for the work holiday visa, had my application in, and then COVID came. And then it was after that that the lockdown had finished. I found a place to stay with a lovely Irish family. They took me in throughout COVID. So I was very lucky as well that I had met this family, and when COVID kicked off, I was like, oh, I think I put up like something on Facebook being like, because at that stage, like no one knew what was going to happen with
No.
COVID. Like, was it going, like no one knew if it was going to end the world or if it was going to be gone in a couple of weeks or whatever. So afterwards, I had got back in the bike. I still hadn't heard about my visa. I was still in New Zealand. So I got back in the bike, then got a job pretty much like the next day. I kind of something sorted. And then yeah, so whatever I was working away, just doing normal life. I guess kind of becoming an immigrant by accident. So like working, paying bills,
Mm.
everything that I didn't imagine I'd be doing at that stage of my life. And it was great. Like we were partying, working, having fun. Went playing football out there. There was a ski field nearby, so I was skiing like 5 months of the year. And then yeah, you could go away and do trips because they basically just like didn't leave anyone into the country.
Yeah, they closed their borders down, and Australia
Yeah.
pretty much did the same thing, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So like there was no need to pre-book any of the trips and stuff, and you were getting discounts, and people were just happy to have the business, I guess. But like I didn't really do many. I don't think I did any biking trip at all until I got back in the bike to finish off the cycle. But and then I was just doing trips with friends and stuff. So you go away and like do one of the great and like the outdoor activities on the South Island. Like it's just an outdoor heaven. Like if
Nuts, isn't
anyone
it?
really
Yeah.
wants to go, like it's so like New Zealand top to bottom, North Island tip to the South Island tip. It's like in Europe, it's like Norway down to the bottom of Spain. Like it's huge, and with the scale of the map of the world, some countries are made out to be much smaller than what they are, or whatever. And New Zealand is one of them. Like New Zealand is like Australia is big, and then obviously beside Australia, New Zealand looks so small. But when you're in New Zealand, it's a really really big country.
With some amazing, like it's got everything. I think
Yeah,
mountains, volcanoes, lakes, beaches,
ski
rainforests,
field.
fjords. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
exactly.
got
It
everything.
really does.
Probably very few countries in the world that are like that. Like I'd always say like New Zealand, South Island. Like I did Switzerland a little bit, but not all of it. But like Switzerland is stunning. North Pakistan, and probably like for fjords and stuff at least anyways, you're probably going up to like North Norway.
Mm.
They mightn't have like the high mountains that like Switzerland or Pakistan would have. Like those great walks in New Zealand were just like so nice.
Did you do some of those?
Yeah, I did like the Abel Tasman. I did the root burn. I was down like then you're driving down into
Did you go to Paradise, which is down past Glenorchy, I think,
yeah, I went out there. I lived down in Queensland at
in
Queenstown for a little
Queenstown?
bit then.
Oh wow.
Like you're going to Wanaka, Milford Sound.
Yeah. So my husband and I, we got married in New Zealand actually, on the Tasman Glacier up near Mount Cook. It was just the two of us, no family, no friends, just us. That was it. And we spent our honeymoon in New Zealand, obviously as well. And I remember we had like a little tiny hire car, and we drove it down. We didn't even know where we were going. I remember we were going that, but I always remember thinking I'd really like to cycle down here between Queenstown and Glenorchy and stuff. Like it looked amazing down by the lakeside there. We ended up in this place called Paradise. They were actually filming for The Hobbit while we were there. This is going back
Oh
into the
wow.
annals. And I remember we saw this big marquee, and I was like, oh wow, is that like a big wedding or something? And then we realised after the fact, no, that was actually the film setup. But I remember Paradise, and I remember thinking it's so aptly named. Like it was, again, it's that feeling of breathing the purest air. And I'm trying to think, is it the root burn track that goes from there? Is it Kipfler? I don't know. One of them does.
Yeah, the root burn, yeah.
Yeah, what a beautiful place. Oh my gosh.
Incredible.
Absolutely.
Incredible down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was getting ready for that university talk last week, I was kind of looking back in the pictures and videos and stuff, and just like, you kind of just go back in time. And when I had left New Zealand to go to Australia, that was, like I said, like nearly 2.5 years later. I was so slow to make that decision.
Hey, listeners, this episode is sponsored by Old Man Mountain, and I wanted to take a little time out to tell you about my experience of using their hemlock bags with flip cages on a recent bikepacking mini adventure I took. The flip cages themselves are cargo cages. I use them on the front forks of my mountain bike. And the hemlock bags are designed for those specific cages. The way that they lock in place with the use of a lever that you literally flip 90 degrees means that it didn't matter how bumpy and rocky the trail was, those bags were never coming off. I was blown away by just how quick and easy they also were to attach and detach from the bike, which meant that I could reduce my faff time at the start and the end of the day by a hell of a lot. They definitely get the double thumbs up for me. So if you're in the market for some bags and cargo cages, totally check them out. Head to oldmanmountain.com and support the brands that support this podcast. Back to the episode. Do you think, was there part of you that could have stayed longer? Like, because you were there for so long, was there an element where you nearly just, like, did you ever even imagine, I don't even know if it would have been possible, probably not, but did you ever think about staying longer? Or conversely, when you were away from family and stuff for so long, did you ever think of just heading straight back to Ireland?
A bit of both. I would love to have stayed in New Zealand, but I knew if I'd stayed, like, that would probably have been that. I don't think I could have stayed for like another year and then got back on the bike. I think, if I was staying for the long term rather than just another year or two
Do you think you could go back there now and stay? Like, do you ever think about that? Or
to live. Mm, I do think about it. I think it's just it's so far from home.
it takes over a day. It's over a day. I always
Yeah,
joke that Australia's a day in the air. New Zealand's over a day in the air. And
yeah.
you can't go the other way and it's shorter either.
And I think with just the experience and memories I have from New Zealand, I'm happy just to kind of park them where they are. Because, if I went back and maybe just, let's say, to say if it happened, like maybe if it didn't work out as well as the first time did, then would you just kind of like leave on a sour note or something? I have very, very happy memories from.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've often wondered this, and I wonder this of myself. Sometimes when an experience is so amazing, there's a temptation to go back because you loved your time there. But then there's also, I don't want to cloud it with a different memory. I remember my bike tours are nothing like yours, Tomas, but they're special to me and they're amazing and they're a bit shorter. But I remember the first time I felt like I did something big. I crossed the Pyrenees with my husband from the Atlantic to the Mediterranean, all over all the mountains. It was amazing, hard, but amazing. And I remember since then, like, there's been times where I'm like tempted to do it again, but I don't want to change the memories. I might do it the other way because it'll feel different. But do you have that feeling with places? Like, for example, would you go back to places that you've already been to? Or are you, like what you've just said, you don't want to change the memories?
Yeah, I probably would go back in a way as well because, like, I suppose, like I said, I'm only 31 now, so I haven't seen like a decent chunk of the world with the bicycle. I don't want to like rule out all those places I've been to because it probably really narrows down where I can go in the future. I would definitely go back to New Zealand on a holiday again, without a
Mm.
doubt. But to go back and live there again,
Yeah, no,
that's
different.
where I
Yeah,
really
yes.
would really, really need to sit down and think about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and I guess like back then when it was COVID related, that decision of staying there was kind of taken out of my hands because it was really simple. It was either stay in New Zealand or go back home to Ireland. And then after we did the first lockdown, just like most of the world did, you saw how well New Zealand had handled it by just
Mm.
effectively closing the country off. And then you were seeing like back at home in Ireland what a shit show it was.
Oh, I lived that. I lived that because I,
Yeah,
like
sorry,
you,
yeah, you were there. So I was just like,
I existed in Ireland. I lived in Ireland when the pubs weren't open, for crying out loud. You were talking about
Yeah.
Paddy's Day and thinking of going
Like
over
that's the
in
end of the
Sydney.
world for us in Ireland.
It
Don't
was.
close our pubs.
It was. I can still visibly, I can close my eyes and put myself in the lounge room watching the TV, watching the Taoiseach sort of announce the lockdowns, and then realising, because I think it happened like a couple of days before Paddy's Day in Ireland was the full lockdown.
Yeah, yeah, it was, yeah, because we were just after it, I think. I think we had some sort of a Paddy's Day. I think we were maybe like a week later in New Zealand.
So you wouldn't go back to live, but you would revisit places. What about a country like Australia then? It's so big. Like, are there places in Australia you'd like to revisit to ride, maybe different areas and stuff like that? And did you find a real difference when you left New Zealand behind and finally went on the road in Australia?
Yeah, so when I had left New Zealand, I'd already like arranged a job in Australia, kind of just by complete accident, to be honest. Yeah, so after COVID in New Zealand, I had finished my bike ride. I wanted to do that before I left New Zealand. So I left my job, left my house, sent my stuff over to Australia, got rid of my car, all that type of stuff, and got back on the bike just to finish off the New Zealand leg, just for my own peace of mind and stuff. And then, but before that, a guy I had previously worked with, a chef, he had come down to Queenstown and he was on his way back home to Australia to do like a new job. And we had met for beers in Queenstown before he left. Anyways, one thing led to another. We ended up drinking beers all day, got a bit drunk, and he had been telling me about this like town in Australia he was moving to. And he was like, "Oh, mate, I can get you a job and stuff." And I didn't even realize at the time I'd said yes or whatever. And then I woke up the next morning on my couch and my head was like an awful headache. And then my phone, like I these missed calls and a message off a woman in Australia being like, "Oh, hey, like Gary said, you're keen to work. Like, when can you start?" I was just like,
What did I do
so I
last night?
called her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like, "I'm so sorry. I've no recollection of this, but like, if I told Gary, I take a job, I'm good for my word. Like, but I was just like, I just have some loose ends to tie up here in New Zealand, and I kind of gave her my bit of my story. And I was like, yeah, but send on like where in Australia and stuff. So she sent me on the address, and I was just like, how the hell am I meant to get out there? It
Where
was
was it?
Winton.
Winton. Oh, whoa.
Yeah, between Longreach and Mount Isa.
Yeah.
So
Or sometimes we would say, as an Aussie, we would say out the back of whoop whoop.
yeah, that is literally out in the middle of nowhere. So I finished up
Between
my cycling.
Wheeler and Kickatin Yeah.
Yeah, Jesus, it was in the middle of nowhere. But it turned out to be one of the best experiences as well. So when I was finishing up in New Zealand, I was mentioning to people I was going to the Outback, and just like, Kiwis having a bit of a laugh. They were like, "Oh, like don't go to the Outback, like they're all crazy and stuff like that, and whatever." And I was like, "No, no, no, they seem sweet. They'll be fine." So got over to Australia and like kind of rode out to Winton, kind of like a mix of cycling, and I had to hitch the last couple of 100 kilometers because they were just like, "Look, we need you. It's Easter weekend. Like, can you come and start work now?" Anyways, yeah, got there, did my bit of work, and then I had gone then to went back to Sydney, went to Vietnam, ended up cycling Vietnam top to bottom before I did any official cycling in Australia because I wanted to see Southeast Asia because I'd meant to be there like 2 years, well, nearly 3 years before that at that stage. And then I went home to Ireland for a visit, went back to Australia, then took off on the bike. And because it was going into like summertime and I had my outback experience done, I wanted to do like a kind of a more scenic route, we'd say. So when Sydney, Canberra, up through, like we were mentioning earlier before we started recording, like down by Lake Jindabyne, up into Treadbow, through Pacheco National Park, then down through Ned Kelly country, all that, I would happily go back there biking again. It like such a beautiful part. Because when I had initially in 2020, when I went out to New Zealand, the plan was when I was doing the Australia leg, it was just simple. Sydney across the part, right across the Nullarbor, right through the outback. But I wanted to do more of a scenic one and see like a different side to Australia I hadn't really expected to see. And then when I got to Melbourne, took a ferry to Tasmania, and that was like the closest into the South Island I've seen. Like Tasmania,
Again, pure oxygen. Beautiful. Yep.
yeah, and I never did the West Coast. I only did like the East, and because I was looking at the flights to Dili, and I had one booked, and I booked it like the cheapest flight I could find, so that kind of factored in with my route around Tassie, but like I'd go back and do Tassie properly again. Like, and the people out there were so friendly. The drivers were a bit mad, but the people were so friendly. Such a beautiful place.
It was from Australia that you flew to Dili, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And then after Dili, and then so then after Dili, I'm piecing your journey. It's logical. Dili, Indonesia, I'm guessing.
yeah. Basically, all ferries.
Oh wow,
Yeah, that was challenging in a different way as well. Like
yeah.
just extreme weather. I had an earthquake as well. There was a bloody bad earthquake one night when I was in Indonesia.
That is a freaky experience. Where I live in the Pyrenees, we actually get a lot of tremors. Well, not a lot, but we do get them. And there was a major earthquake a few hundred years ago, and the epicenter was our village, which is slightly
Oh,
disconcerting. Yeah, we didn't realize we were in an earthquake zone until we bought the house. And then when you buy a
yeah.
house in France, they sit you down and go through. It's called the diagnostics, which is like, what's the house like? Is there asbestos? Is there termites? Blah blah blah. And one of them is about like earthquake, seismic, and I'm like, oh wow. Anyway, I digress. But I was in Istanbul airport earlier this year, and there was like a 6.2 earthquake that hit there, and that is freaky. Holy! And where were you? Where were you when you had the earthquake?
Um, Timor Island, but on the west, and I think it was 7.9.
Oh my gosh, that's massive.
But it was like way off the northern coast of East Timor. So like I was a bit over to the west on the southern side.
So then they sort of then worried about tsunamis and stuff there, wouldn't they? Or
Yeah, but so I had a really difficult day that day because it was just so when I cross into the Indonesian side of Timor Island, from East Timor, there's kind of two ways you can go across the island. You can just take like the main roads. That's what like other tour and cyclists had taken. But then I just about like could make out like a road in the south. So you kind of have to like zoom in a bit. But there was another road along the coast. And when I got to the crossroad, I was like, which way do I go? Do I just kind of go the easier way or go the more kind of difficult way that I have absolutely no knowledge about? So I
mm,
was like, okay, let's just try go the other way. So I took the difficult way. And that night when the earthquake hit, but during that day, I reckon it was probably one of the hardest days cycling ever because it was just so stinky hot. I had puncture trouble. And because I was sweating so much, it was so hard to
get
like
change and get
get a
the
dry
tire on.
patch.
Oh my gosh,
Oh, like I
yeah.
did the first patch and it got so frustrating. And then I was just like buckling down with sweat. And then these two guys came to help me, just like two guys who were passing. They jumped in to help, but I managed to like get my hands dry enough that I could just like get the patch on quickly. And then just these ridiculously stupid steep hills started. And one's like easily 20, 25 plus gradient that just went on and on. And I remember like I had to walk up one hill. And usually I'd be quite decent at going up hills. Like I get very stubborn as well. But hill climbing is what I love doing. So like every time I see a hill, I just plow into it, give it my all, like just try like get up as quick as I can. But this hill just defeated me, and I had to walk and walk and walk. And then it was just like because it was so hot, I was just like I could sense I was like struggling with heat stroke and stuff. Like just the early, very very early onsets of it. But I remember like I saw like a house over this ditch on my left, climbed up over the ditch with my bike, plunked it down, saw a tree, sat in the shade, and then I'd look behind me and there was these two locals sitting down looking at me. And I kind of looked up and I was just like pointing to the sun and just being like, oh, like I'll be gone in like a few minutes. I was just kind of like trying to let them know that I was just like really struggling with the heat and that I was not going to be any nuisance for them or whatever. And they just smiled and and then they came over and bought me water and stuff. There was no shops or whatever. It was just like a very non-touristy, very, very local part of like that side of Indonesia where seeing a foreigner just like bought great intrigue again. I remember stopping in one village to have like a few cans of Coke or 7 Up or just to get sugar into me. And again, like just everyone came down surrounding me. And I was kind of like, just give me 5 minutes, just like and I'll be fine. I'll perk up again. I'm really low on sugar and water and blah blah blah. So you're trying to like entertain them as well and have a bit of crack with them and stuff. But when I left that particular village, I had started climbing up another hill and again just got defeated, turned a corner. It was like a wall in front of me, and just mentally I was so defeated. I hopped off the bike, realized I had to start pushing again. I was like, fuck, like I'm never gonna make it up here, like, and I'm just gonna be so drained by the sun and the heat and stuff. And but then these kids started pushing.
Oh my gosh, they help you push.
Yeah, yeah. The kids from the village had followed me like unknown to me that they had followed me. And then as soon as again, like once I turned the corner, and it was only like a couple of 100 meters back to the village, but they had followed me out. and they started pushing. And like the next couple of kilometers, they were just like helping me walk and push the bike up. But then that night, I stopped in a like I was like a beach, but it was like a small little like not a village, but it was like a couple of like roadside restaurants or whatever. So I asked where could I camp. They told me where to camp outside this like abandoned building. So I pitched up the tent there. Eventually drifted off to sleep. There was people fishing down the pier beside me, and then during the night, just everything started violently shaking. But I suppose because it was such a difficult day with the heat and stuff and the hills, I was so drained. Like you said, you worry about the threat of tsunami, but just me being the Egypt I can be sometimes, I just fell back to sleep. Like all the shaking happened, and I hadn't realized what, like I was kind of awake, but I wasn't fully awake. I was just like,
Yeah.
what the hell's going on here? And I could hear the fishermen cheering. So I was just like, but the building felt as if it's going to come down on top of me. But I fell back to sleep, forgot about it the next morning, rode into Kupan like 150 kilometers. I didn't have a SIM card again at that stage. And then it was only when I got online. My family in Ireland knew nothing about it, but my friends and family in Australia were texting me being like, are you okay? Like it was felt in Darwin and stuff.
Which is rare. Like Australia isn't, we can get, tremors, but it's not something that we feel often in Australia for
Yeah,
sure. No, no, no. And
yeah,
it's like I said, it's just so unsettling.
yeah. And then the story gets even better because that night, so like, yeah, so found out about the earthquake. I was like, Jesus, like that's what happened last night. So that explains a lot.
That wasn't a fever dream, yeah.
Yeah. So that night, I had the tough day the day before the earthquake, and then biked like 150k the next day. Got into Kupan, just really drained, like really knocked out of it or whatever. And before I got into Kupan, I had more puncture trouble, but the rain just pelted down at this stage. So it was like 2 hours before I could get a patch on. Like I was trying to find shelter. I was a bit outside town. There was nothing around. So by the time I got going again, it was like pure darkness cycling into the biggest city in the island. Anyways, fell asleep that night, woke up during the night with stomach problems, ran to the bathroom. Nothing happened, kind of stood up, fainted, hit my head off the wall. Eventually, whatever.
It's like
Yeah.
every sentence it just levels up.
I came around like whatever minute or two later, and I had like blood coming down my face. I couldn't move my neck because I ended up having pulled a muscle in my neck, and then like pants down around the ankles, and then like the diarrhea was going to start, so I had to
Oh
like
my gosh.
slowly. It was just I was like, what the fuck? I was like, what is going on? So
This
I
is
climbed
grim.
back up onto the toilet. I can't move my neck. There's like blood coming down, and then whatever diarrhea starts, and I'm sitting there for whatever couple of hours. I was just like, my phone was out in the bed, so I couldn't call anyone. I was just like, I have to just let this pass, and then whatever. It finished, got like had to crawl back into bed. My neck was just like I couldn't move it to like my left side or whatever. My right side was really sore as well. Managed to clean the blood, and then yeah, it was just, and I was just like, what an eventful couple of days. So that's the other side to tour and stuff as well.
Listeners, if you absolutely love this podcast and you love tuning into the stories that I bring to you each and every week, you can help me and support the show by heading to buymeacoffee.com/seek travel ride. Shout me a few virtual coffees and keep this podcast rolling. Back to the episode. You travel for the experiences, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Not never do it the easy way.
Oh my gosh, the stories you could share though. You know how you're back in Dingle at the moment. Do you find you are just sharing stories? I often wonder when people take big journeys like this, the world you go back to every day is so different. People that love you and stuff, they're always around you, but they possibly don't have a comprehension of this type of travel. Do you find you get back and you share stories for the first week or two, but then you share nothing? Or conversely, do you randomly now, say after working at the pub or something, you pull up a pint of Guinness, have a few people around you and you're sharing stories?
Usually like I'd be asked about it. Like being in the pub background, of course, like I have a lot. You'd have like a decent, especially in Ireland, like you'd have like it's a small country, so when someone goes away and does something like this, like I've had a good few newspaper articles. I've been on the like news and stuff a couple of times, etc. And there's a lot of people, well, not a lot, like, but it's like a decent number of people would seem to know about it, just follow me online and stuff. So like they've all come into the bar and they'd be asking questions. I'd never like, unless it was something very similar to whatever I'm talking about, what I mentioned, like maybe a story like that, if someone brought up like having diarrhea some evening, I'd be like, oh hey, like that happened to me out in Indonesia, blah blah blah. But I never like, I guess in Ireland, it's weird because like it's as if you can't talk about your achievements because people will be like, oh, like he thinks he's great, or look at the big head in him, or kind of like a begrudgery. Not like, I don't think people would mean it in like a really mean kind of way. It's just not, I wouldn't actively go being like, oh, hey, like this is what I've done, unless someone says it to me. And one of my friends was talking to me about it again, like last week before I did that chat in the university. I was very nervous about going in there because I'd never done a university. I'd done schools like primary school, high school. But I'd never talked in front of like, would say, actual adults. And I was really nervous. And one of my mates was saying to me, he was just like, lives down the road, whatever, has his few beers here over the weekend. And he was just like, having listening to you, like he was just like, when people ask you like really specific questions, like if someone's like, oh, how was your world cycle trip?
How do you even say? What do you say?
Yeah, so I'm just like, oh, it was great. Like, I loved it. It was a great experience. But then he was just like, but he was like, when people ask you like specific questions about whether you're talking about Syria or somewhere in kind of North or Southern Africa, or out in the Middle East or in Australia or New Zealand, whatever, he's just like, you don't even like stop to think about what you're saying. It just comes out naturally.
It was like us talking now.
Yeah. So it all kind of like comes flooding back. So like even like us chatting here, you'll kind of, you might say something, I'll be like, oh yeah, like, or even afterwards, I might think of something that it has been such, like it has spanned like 9 years of my life. It's not as if I took a year out of college and just rode around the world in 1 year, like, or 2 years. It's been going on for like 9 years, and it'll continue to keep going on for another while. It's like even for me, prior to doing that chat last week, I went through I have a couple of hard drives full of videos and pictures and stuff, and going through those, and you're going back to dates like 2016, 17, 18. I'm just like, it feels like a lifetime ago. And but when you're going through the pictures and videos and my numerous diaries and stuff, it all kind of comes flooding back then.
Mm.
And then even he, my friend, and not only him, but other people who've come in all summer asking questions about it, they would bring up stuff that I just might have forgotten about because there's so much that has happened.
Mm.
And then you're just like, oh crap, yeah, like I do remember that now. Now that funny that you mention it, because
And do you find that it just takes you right there? You were talking about looking at stuff on a hard drive. It's funny. I think I've mentioned him like twice already. But when I chat with Hines,
oh, I can only imagine the amount of diaries and paper clips.
gosh, yeah, the stories, listeners, the stories. Like, wow, I can't even. I don't even think I scratched the surface. Okay, but
You've had Pete Costello on the show as well, haven't you?
yeah, twice.
Another guy who's been like just never stops. Like it's just like wow.
Yeah, and I mean and he's posting up all his experiences through Africa and his recent trip now. But something that struck me with Hines, who cycled and travelled the world more than anyone else in the world. He holds the Guinness record most epic journeys. What a title, right? He's 85 years old now. He's literally bedridden. He can't leave his bed. And to me, there's such an, how ironic is that? Like the person who's travelled the most and now is stuck. But
Mm.
not when you speak to Hines. When you speak to Hines, he says he's still travelling. I am still
Yeah,
travelling.
muscle. It's just incredible muscle memory.
Listeners, if you have the opportunity to go visit him in his house in northern Germany, go and do it. It's amazing. And it's like a museum of the world, of travel, of geography, of maps, of photos. Like he was a photojournalist ultimately. That's how he funded his trips. And he has books that he's actively still working on. Like he works, he says, till way past 3 a.m. every day because he wants this all to be recorded in a great way.
Yeah, that's
You
brilliant.
pick a random, I think when I was there, I picked a random book up about Mali and going through photos and he goes there, but he is still traveling because of that. Do you find, this has been a long round the houses talk here, but do you find that that's what you're doing? Like, do you yearn, like, talking about it aside, do you find yourself, you want to go back and like you do seek your own experiences out? Like, do you open your phone and look through photos or videos and go, wow?
Yeah, yeah. I do. I do quite a lot. It's just yeah. I mean, it's such good memories to think about. And even if here, like if I'm having like kind of like a downy day, which you obviously everyone has them. Yeah, I just get like lost back in photos and pictures and reading through diaries and stuff, just like trying to imagine that I was like doing it all over again, reliving it.
Mm.
But then I guess what helps as well, because the journey is like spanned out for so long.
Mm.
I think for me, it's like a never-ending journey. You know, I could take. I've been home since July. I'll probably go cycling again, maybe January time. I haven't anything booked, and I know I want to go again, so I can go again for like a few months or whatever it may be. So at least like I still have that to look forward to.
Mm.
So even though I'm still kind of like looking back on what I've done, and then trying to live the present, working, focusing on like saving money to go again, and then you're looking at the future as to like where you can go again.
Mm.
So it's like the best out of the trio, really.
Yeah. And do you find you were talking about, the mindset, and we've spoken about the mental health aspects of being on the road. There's the flip side of the coin, which is the mental health aspects of not being on the road, post-adventure blues. You're not doing the unknown thing every day. And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about the unknown extreme thing, and I'm not talking about seeing horrendous war sites in Syria. Or I'm talking about the unknown of, I don't know what today's going to bring. I don't know which town I'm going to. I don't know what the landscape's like. I don't know what the weather's going to do. I don't know what's around that corner. Has that been something that over the many different travels you've taken, because you've had pauses in your journeys as well, how has it been dealing with it when you're not on the road, when you're at home?
Yeah, there's definitely been ups and downs with it, and here like it's it's hard to explain to people because again, like unless you've done it, it's kind of really hard to explain to someone like how you're feeling. I'm probably not one that's I've gotten better at talking about how I feel, but I don't think I've excelled at it or whatever. I do kind of hold a bit inside me as well. But then I just try to keep myself as busy as I can, I guess. Just with work, saving up just because like I said, at least I know I'd be going away again. I'm not at the stage of life where I'm ready to like stop and park up my life or whatever. I still do want to do a bit more traveling. I still do want to go and see more places on the bike. So that does help as well. But I know like it'll come to the day where I might decide, maybe now it's time to stop. But I'm hoping that will just come naturally, that I won't be like kind of forced into that decision as well. That it'll just be at a time when I choose is the right time for me to stop. Because when I was coming across Europe on the way home during the summer, I, of course, like every day, well, yeah, whatever, like you're kind of just like, oh, like what's next? Like what? Because that's the question I've always like asked myself when this all does stop, like what do I want to do? And I haven't really come up, I have like ideas, but I haven't come up with any definitive like solutions or whatever. So that to me, I just know like maybe I'm just not ready for that stage yet. Yeah. And yeah, just keep myself busy with work, looking back in old pictures and videos, and I guess like working in the bar trade at home as of now, it does benefit as well because you do get to talk about it quite a lot because people do come in asking, people I know, people who follow it. I've got a poster up on the wall from I need to update it, but it's from my America cycling. You get people asking about that, and then you're just like, oh well, I've kept going since then. Like I haven't really stopped. I just need to update all that, and then you get talking about that side of it as well. But it is then difficult sometimes to pick yourself up to go. But because like I'm never home for the same amount of period or I'm never away for the same amount of period. Like my last trip was 9 months. My trip before that was like 4 months. Last year I would have spent 8, 9 months at home. And then obviously you get back into home comforts. And then you have to pick yourself up to go again, to do it all over again. So initially like that's a bit of a difficult decision to make. And then when you're leaving, you're just like, oh, like, and then you're kind of a bit slow to start, but give it a couple of weeks and you're back into it again. You're back into the swing of things, and then you're just like, yeah, I still love this. Like, I do kind of worry sometimes, that, like, if I go away, like, will I enjoy it? Like I was saying about like when I know it'll be time to settle down, will that happen to me on the road where I might be wherever I might be, South America, back in Africa, the Middle East, and all of a sudden I just decide right there and then in the middle of the Sahara Desert again, maybe that I was like, do you know what? Now I've done everything I wanted to do. Now it's time to tap out and do something else with life.
Yeah.
So it's still an exciting journey. So I don't know when that day will come, if it will come, or if just naturally it'll just come to an end at the end of some trip or something, or if
Mm.
something will trigger it abroad or something.
Yeah, or whether it's also just you're going to lead a life which has that aspect of traveling for a few months every year. Who knows? That could be
Yeah,
something that maybe you choose to do. And I guess there's no right
a
or
lot
wrong.
of people do it.
Yeah,
So
there's no right or wrong answer to it either. something that's occurred to me on such a long episode, somehow I don't think we've really brought about food. And food always has to come up on the podcast, Tomas. I want to ask you a question. I could ask you the impossible, which is to tell me about food in any of the amazing countries you've travelled in over 9 years. But I actually want to go the other way. When you're in a country where you don't have access to all the amazing food that you'd like, what's something from Ireland that you wish you could have?
Probably like an Irish stew, I'd say. My dad makes a really good one. Or bacon and cabbage, just like something like traditional you kind of just see here. Like in the bar there, we've got a stove, like a fireplace stove, and in the winter time it's so nice, like before I stopped or before like I started going away every winter. You could be sitting in the bar like having a pint and there's like bacon or something being cooking on the stove or something, like just on top of the fireplace, like just because with all the heat generated off it, and you just kind of miss those homely meals, like those home cooked meals. Kind of spoiled in a way, obviously,
Yeah,
but
wow.
yeah, like a good traditional Irish stew or a bacon and cabbage, or then if you wanted to go like maybe a little bit to the unhealthier side, like a proper Irish fry up.
Oh, yeah, with black and white pudding.
A greasy fry up,
Potato
sausages,
bread.
bacon, the whole lot.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my gosh. See, I would go, I'd go any of those as well. Soda bread or wheaten bread, depending whether you're north or south of the
Yeah,
broad.
yeah,
Oh my gosh. In fact, my husband makes that here when we're away. And oh my gosh, it's amazing. If you've never tried it, listeners, you need to seek it out. All of these.
yeah. You have to get it.
I guess something that goes without saying would be a Guinness.
Oh, definitely. I only drink Guinness at home though. I don't drink it abroad anymore. It's not the same. There's a lot behind like a good pint of Guinness.
You would have drawn many a pint.
Oh yeah, and our kegs are right underneath the tap, so like the shorter the line is, the better the pint because there's less in the line and stuff. And once there's like a constant pour, and in Ireland there would be because a lot of people would drink Guinness, whereas if you're in some pub in Australia, like the pub I worked in Winton, they had Guinness, but no one ever drank it. I drank it every now and again, but it was just like no one drank it, so I was just like, well, everyone's drinking a local beer, so I'll just have whatever they're drinking as well because at least people are drinking it, so there's a decent pour in it, so it's going to taste pretty okay if they're drinking it.
Something I was just thinking when you were speaking about the pub there is you've received so much hospitality with people inviting you into their homes and stuff. And you have also, and your family has had the benefit of welcoming other bike travelers in as well, haven't you? How's that been? Like,
Yeah,
that must be awesome. That must feel like a real cool way of giving back and stuff too.
yeah. There's been a few. There hasn't like where I live. Like it is one of the most beautiful parts of Ireland, but it's also like a dead end. So like when you come into like where I live, you have to kind of go out kind of the same way again. There's two ways in and out. But Pete Costello, he stayed here, but I was away at that stage. Yeah, I missed him, but I saw that he was coming through Ireland, and I never knew Claire at that stage. But Claire,
Did she stay as well, or
no, I never knew her. You see, I only knew Pete, and it was only when I met Claire in Tasmania, and Pete had mentioned that he had met her in Ireland cycling, so he put the two of us in touch, and then me and Claire were talking about it, and since then, like we've of course stayed in touch since then. But yeah, so and then people who I've like stayed with have come to visit and come to stay and stuff like that as well. So it's been really really nice. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it's
and
been really really nice.
that would be. And I was thinking actually, when I was researching about your journeys, I was going through some of your old posts on Instagram. I actually came across the photo of you and Claire where you'd met in Tassie and you had mentioned
Hmm.
about it. And do you know what was really awesome about that? I'm trying to think, I think that might have been 2022, maybe early 2023. It was right at the end of the year, whichever one. If it was late
Yeah,
22 or early 23.
yeah. I think it was late 2022. Yeah.
And something that was cool was that you mentioned that first time I've met her, we've sort of known about each other, but unfortunately we can't ride. We're going in different directions. And it was something along the lines of Claire hopes to ride back home to the UK from Cambodia. And do you know what I thought? How awesome is it? Because she's done that. Like she
Yeah.
actually did.
And we only finished like a week apart. I got home like a week before she did. It was just
We
so
nearly had a
crazy.
magic moment where you and Claire could have
Yeah.
been at my house at the same time and we just didn't get it to line up for about 3 days. That would have been mad.
Yeah.
I would have forced
Yeah.
both of you to stay for a week.
And it would have been a great week as well.
My way of saying, Tomas, for sure, whenever you're travelling, if you're anywhere near where I am, you're more than welcome. And
Yeah, likewise if you ever come to Ireland as well.
I've put it on my bucket list now. I need to have a pint drawn by you of Guinness
In Pig and Jersey.
with that Irish stew, and then just hear stories, because I think that would be mega. Does Dingle feel like home? Do you feel like that is your home base, or it's your community?
Um, yeah, it's a bit of a funny one. I do like coming home, just not like right. I don't want to stay home long term right now.
Yeah, it's not somewhere where you want to put roots down just yet.
Yeah, not just yet. Maybe one day in the future. I don't know. I don't know where I'll end up. I think ideally I might just end up someplace where I can have a summer here at home, and then maybe live some other place in the winter because just winters are bleak here. Nothing happens. It's really quiet,
And dark as
crappy
well.
weather, and yeah, just the usual kind of yeah. And we don't really get a winter. Like it's not like you get the four seasons here in the sense that like summer is consistently good and hot, and then
Mm,
winters are like snowy. Like that's when I think of winter, you think of snow, you think of just like the odd bluebird day, but it's cold, but at least it's like it's not raining or gloomy every day of the week, whereas Ireland is very much like that in the winter.
yeah,
And
and there's a different type of light about. I always remember I shouldn't phrase it like that, but when I was in Ireland, something that I did appreciate, at least in those short hour days in winter, was on the odd occasion where it was sunny, because the sun is so low in the sky, you just had golden hour for the whole day. Like the light in the sky was
yeah,
magic the whole day. And I really appreciated that. But I can totally understand where you're coming from there as
like
well.
when you get a good day in Ireland, it is really a good day. And it like we always say, like when you start getting the good days of summer, because in the winter, of course, like it gets a bit gloomy and people do suffer during the winter. But then when you get like the really good summer days, it's just like it's like a completely different country here.
It is, it's magic.
Because we just like you know you're not going to get too much of them, so you just have to try and make the most. So like everyone's at the beach, people are outside, like shorts, t-shirt. Everyone is just in such a good mood
Having a
where
99 ice cream. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then in the winter time, it's just like it's just I just don't like it here in the winter. I just haven't been abroad for winters and like travel and stuff. I'm just like, oh, if I can just beat the winter blues and stay abroad and stuff like that, then I'll keep doing that while I can.
So, Tomas, people are going to hear your story, and from what you're saying, you're going to be travelling for a few years now, like to come by the sounds of it. If they want to keep up with your adventures, the best way for them to do so is that through which social channels of yours?
Probably Instagram, Twitter, I'd say. Yeah, I'm not like as like seeing how other people are on Instagram. Like some of them are really, really good. I've got so much stuff I could like make more of an effort posting up, but I'm just happy out just the odd. But they can still see like where I am and like see what countries I'm in. So if anyone ever has any questions, like please don't hesitate to ask. And maybe someday I will like catch up on proper stories on it as well and things like that.
I hope you do.
That would be the best.
I must admit, I've spent quite a lot of time the last few days just going through every single country that you've saved an archive of, and trying to put myself and think, what would it have been like to be there? What would it have been like to be there? Wow, that is amazing. And like when I look here, nearly speaking with you 3 hours, that's just pressing record. We had a good 40 minutes probably before we even pressed that. One of the perks of being the host of the show, I get some extra time to chat. But like we barely touched on so much. Like there's all Africa, Australia, like all these places could be their own episode. We never talked about India. There's so much unsaid, which is my way of saying that I think in the future, Tomas, I need to do another round with you and share
Absolutely.
different stories as well. I'm going to finish the show up now, and there's 3 questions which I ask all of my guests, quick fire. The first one's music related. You're a guest of the show. You get to pick a song to go on the Seek Travel Ride music playlist. What song are you going to pick to be the soundtrack to your adventure?
Oh, crikey. Jesus, that is a very good question. Uh, Off the top of my bloody head. What one do I like the most?
I always say it should be the first song you think of.
Oh, maybe what is it called? Sinead O'Connor. It
Oh,
just
yes.
left my mind there now. Conor McGregor used to have it as his walk-in intro for some of his fights. Oh yeah, the Foggy Jew, Sinead O'Connor.
The Foggy Dew, Sinead O'Connor. I love it. I love a bit of
Yeah,
Sinead.
yeah, yeah. Sinead's fabulous.
Oh, she is. Oh, God. Unique and fabulous voice. I love it. I love it. Okay. Next question. You're given a choice one day. You can choose to go left, but that requires you to be on the most corrugated, washboard, bumpy road in the world. There's no respite. There's no smooth areas to find. or go right, but you have got to cycle into the dirtiest, biggest headwind of your life all day long, no relenting, no giving up. Which one are you going to go, left or right?
Left.
In corrugations, why?
Yeah. Just I hate headwinds. Headwinds drive me up the wall, especially if it's all day.
Worst place that you got a headwind?
Saudi Arabia, like knocked me back down to 8 kilometers an hour.
Oh my gosh, was it like sandy and brutal as well?
It was horrific. And then I had two road choices. I could have gone on a more populated stretch of road, but it would have been way busier with traffic, especially trucks. Or else I could have taken this newer highway that they built, but there was absolutely zero services for quite a while. So I took the less traveled road, of course, and then realized that when I had been battered back to 7, 8 kilometers an hour, I was just like, right, this gas station is like well over 100 miles, nearly 200 k's away. I don't have enough food if I continue at this pace. So after a couple of hours, I was like, thinking about having to ration my food or whatever. And next thing, this car pulls up beside me, and I couldn't hear it with the wind. So all I see is just like hand basically come out. This woman starts handing me food, juice packs. She was giving me so much stuff that I had to stop the bike to hold it all. And it was just a woman and her husband and her family. And they saw me cycling and they started handing me food. So with all the food they gave me, I realized that I could like space out my food better and have enough to get me to the next gas station the next day.
You didn't have to turn back, because that's something I read about you, was you do not like turning back.
I hate going back. Even if I didn't have enough food, I would have just like rationed and like
starved for a day.
Stop. Yeah, just like if I got lightheaded, just like eat a couple of biscuits at a time, and something I wouldn't recommend people to do. It's a stupid idea, so don't do that.
There's a few things you've not recommended today. All right, Tomas, final question for you, and that is, I want you to finish this sentence for me, and it is, the best thing about taking a bike adventure is?
The people. Yeah, definitely the people. I wouldn't be as enjoyable if you didn't meet so many people, because I don't know, like when I did that first trip in America, I didn't think that people would be so interested or like go out of their way to like help. And I remember like the second day I met this random guy on like just a random stretch of road, and he just told me like when I get to the next town to give him a call. He gave me his cell phone number, and then anyways called him. He had paid for me to stay at a local hotel, and then he wanted to take me out on his plane, so I got to go on a plane ride with him.
Wow, that's awesome.
That was like day 3 or something. I was just like, what the hell? Why would someone go out of their way to do that? But then that's when I started to realize maybe like the world isn't as what people say it is or whatever. So yeah, definitely like just that realization that like 99.9% of the people I've met have been just
Legends.
way, 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 exactly, like just way, way, way kinder than what I ever thought they would ever be or would have to be. But like, yeah, like you said, there's complete and utter legends. And some of these people you might have just briefly had an encounter with for like 10 minutes, but just that one little conversation could completely change your mood or your outlook on the day or whatever like that as well. So I definitely don't think I would have kept going if it wasn't for that like people aspect of it and just that intrigue and just getting to know people and having friends all over the world now as well. And yeah.
Yeah, and stories to share. And something that else that has struck me, Tomas, is you're passing the information on and you're also paying it forward. You're giving out the hospitality when you're in a position to do so. And you're also someone that people are seeking out to get information about roads, routes, countries and stuff as well. And you're more than happy to do that, which is the way that this bike travel adventure community sort of keeps paying it forward. I always say you can't go on a journey this vast without it changing you. And they're the parts of you that I think get embedded into your personality as well. And it's so obvious just chatting with you here today. Oh my gosh, Tomas, it has been an absolute pleasure. I feel like I've gone on a worldwide trip and going into experiences that have blown my mind for multiple reasons. I really appreciate just like the honesty with which you share your stories and the vulnerability that you share it with as well, speaking absolutely openly about mental health at times and anxiety and facing fears to, what it's actually been like to recall things that you've witnessed that you never thought you'd witnessed before, to the madness of a day in Indonesia where you're experiencing an earthquake with the worst gastro of your life. cracking your head and pulling your neck and being stuck. These are the mad stories you don't know are going to come out whenever I interview someone who's travelled as much as you. It's been a super long episode. Listeners, you're likely hearing it in 2 parts, and I thank you for coming along for the ride. I 100% hope that one day I can meet you face to face, hear more stories, perhaps interview you again. Either way, I'm looking forward to seeing where your next bike adventure takes you. Thank you for being an absolute dead set legend and sharing your stories and experiences here on the podcast with Seek Travel Ride.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks so much for having me. It was a great chat. Wonderful time.
There you go, everybody. I hope that you enjoyed those 2 episodes with guest Tomas Mac An T-Saoir. I could listen to Tomas share stories for hours, and I definitely hope to meet him in person and perhaps be able to do a follow-up podcast because, as I mentioned there right at the end, there are so many places that we didn't even get to talk about, so many experiences that he has no doubt had over his 8 or 9 years of bike travel. I really loved the way that he shares his stories. I can tell that he is a natural storyteller, and also right at the end there, how he mentioned the importance of people to him and his motivation to keep traveling in this way and to stay on the road is because of the people and the strangers that he meets, the interactions that he has with them, and what he learns from them in country as well. It's definitely a theme that I have had spring up from many previous guests, especially those who have done longer-term bike adventures. And from the stories that Tomas shared in the last 2 episodes, I could really understand the importance of those interactions with the people to him for sure. Now, listeners, if you are enjoying this podcast, you love Seek Travel Ride, and you love tuning into episodes each and every week, you can show that you are a true super fan by heading to buymeacoffee.com/Seek Travel Ride and buying me a few virtual coffees. Buy me some coffees and let me know what is it that you love about this podcast and where is your next bike adventure going to be taking you. And until the next episode, I'm Bella Malloy. Thanks for listening. And that's the end of the episode, listeners. Don't forget, be sure to check out Old Man Mountain, who are supporting Seek Travel Ride this year. I am a massive fan of their gear, and I 100% recommend you check out the Hemlock bags and flip cages. A super handy and robust bag and cargo cage system. I love them, and I'm sure you will too. Head to oldmanmountain.com and support the brands that support this podcast.